Martin, I think
I'm on mute.
Yeah.
Start that again. Good evening. Welcome to the Mancunian Way. See, you can tell we're live. We've had this. Yeah, so good evening. Welcome to the Mancunian Way. My name is Martin. We're here for a very important message tonight. We're here to talk about the North Stand extension and what was originally meant to happen and what has ended up happening through it all. And we've got Dante, Jed, Lucas, Lee, and Mark, Todd, who I will let you introduce where they're from and what your roles are, etc. in a minute. But very, very important people. We're all fans. We all love the club. And I think the main message is tonight is communication and what exactly is going on. So big everyone big up in the chat. I'm just going to start before I bring everyone into what was actually going to happen. The North Stand 2-3 years ago, when the plans originally came out, was going to be explained as a blue wall. A wall of noise is the way it was going to be pushed around and talked around, and we were going to make it great. Now, obviously, the hotel and everything was already planned in there, and it's slightly changed. Oh, Jed's gone. Jed's back, I believe now. So yeah. Oh, there, right. Yeah. So we're going to hit the blue wall. That hasn't fully happened. And where we ended up last week, I believe, was 500 fans, or up to 500 fans, season ticket holders, have been asked to move. Well, not asked. Asked is the wrong question. They've been told they're going to have to move unless they go into this new town hall, whatever it was, group. A more informal corporate area. So, yeah, we wanted to get people on to have a chat about this and find out where we go next and what can be done, if anything. So what I want to start with, first of all, I want to kick off with Lee from City Matters, and then go into Lucas and obviously Matt, because I believe you three, correct me if I'm wrong, was you all in a meeting with the club about this last year, I believe?
Yeah.
Now, I believe you can, if you can't talk about things, I get it, I understand. Don't have to share everything. But what was originally said in this meeting? Did you know anything about this moving of fans around? I think that's Dante, that. Right, there we go. It was Dante. So, Lee, do you want to kick us off? What was the original plans, or you thought was the plans, and what was you told?
So, I think when I joined City Matters, there'd already potentially been one or two preceding North Stand meetings with Lucas, probably one there as well. So when I landed, and I'm the current City Matters chair, so I'm 3 years into my 4-year City Matters term. So somewhere along those lines, I know how some of the things now work at City that I didn't know before. And I probably walked into the first meeting around the North Stand thinking exactly the same as pretty much most other fans. It's going to be this big atmospheric stand. It's going to be the blue wall. It's going to be cheaper tickets. It's going to get everyone in that we need to be, make it atmospheric, everything that you would want it to be.
Yeah.
And I do have to, caveat the fact that I am still under the NDA, non-disclosure agreement, so there will be some things I won't be able to say.
Yeah.
However, I was disappointed with that first meeting, thinking, right, it's not going to be what they said it was going to be. And I think my personal perspective from that was there was probably too many people involved in trying to pull it together from the club. And it has been well documented within City Matters meeting through the FSA, whereby we've had sometimes up to 30 to 40 club representatives in City Matters meeting, which have just been excessive, and they have cut that back now. But for me, my first feeling was that meeting was it's not going to be what I thought it was going to be, and too many people are getting involved and taking it in too many different directions. And I don't know if Mark might want to add to that, because he was in the meetings before I arrived.
Yeah, the club are terrible at overkill when it comes to these things. So you get all the City Matters representatives who get asked and invited to come to a meeting. I was a representative of City Matters up until about 18 months ago. So yeah, I've been in those meetings with Lucas and with Lee. They do overkill. You're right. There was like three city representatives to every one fan rep, and they never stopped talking. So it was very much kind of wall of information, mind a blue wall, where they just loads and loads of information. And Lee's right. Nearly everybody around the table, people had different views amongst the fan representatives, slightly different views, but pretty much everybody was very disappointed with the first version that came out. And if you're going to have a blue wall, the one thing you don't do is put hospitality in it. So that was obvious, and we made that point at the beginning. So although at the moment we're talking about something that the club are doing a really ham-fisted job of at the moment, the very first reaction from supporters when we were asked was, this is the place not to put hospitality. They're putting hospitality in other parts of the stadium, and not everybody loves that. But this is definitely not the place to do it. So the first iteration of the design had a very big hospitality area. So that was the first we heard of it. And it was such a disappointment. And it was almost a bit typical of City. Only City could have a great news story about a brand new standard increasing capacity and then manage to mess it up.
Yeah, no, you are spot on. Lucas, anything? I know, was you also in the meeting, I believe?
Yeah, that's right. So we got a call from the club, essentially inviting us into the meeting. For anyone who doesn't know about 1894, we are an atmosphere group. We currently operate mostly in block the newly renamed Block 015 in South Stand Level 1. We do lots of displays and flags and things, and obviously we have a lot of communication with the club to organise and deal with logistics on that side of things. So we got a phone call from the club. They said they want to chat to us about the North Stand, obviously with us being an atmosphere group. However, they caveated it with wanting us to sign an NDA. And to be fair to the club, the reasoning behind it was they wanted to speak like candidly and openly, and they felt that by having an NDA, they could be a bit more honest and reveal slightly more information without the risk of it sort of being released. So we went to our members and asked them, were they happy for us to go into this meeting knowing that we were sort of limited in what we could feed back to them, and there was gonna have to be a level of trust there from our members to to essentially myself, because I was the only 1894 rep in the meeting, to essentially like put their points across and what have you. And so in the initial meeting we had, the club pitched their plans to us. As Mark said, I don't think anybody was truly inspired by the initial plans. I personally felt they were unambitious. Based on that meeting, 1894 put a survey out. We received over 5,000 responses, asking questions about various things. You know, what's the most important thing to you when it comes to the North Stand expansion, and those types of questions, like where would you like to see singing sections, where would you like to see rail seating, all these types of questions were asked. And I shared the results of those prior to the second meeting, that I felt really strongly supported the opinion and view that City fans want the North Stand to be an atmospheric home end. That's what the vast majority of people wanted. That was along with over 1,000 individual comments that we forwarded onto the club from fans referencing the North Stand. So we had tons of information to back up the you know, what we were asking for essentially. And in the second meeting, the club came back and had adjusted a few things. They'd had some, you know, alterations compared to the first meeting, and it was like in a very small way budging in the direction we wanted it to. The third meeting I took part in, which was roughly this time of year last year, maybe in like October time last year, something like that. It was actually a virtual meeting. We had it over Teams, and it was incredibly disappointing in my memory of it. So we'd had these two what we felt could be productive meetings, and then on the third and final meeting, it was more of a, this is what we're doing, these are the plans. There were essentially like no real sort of shift towards what we'd requested or suggested, and that was that. So since then, we've obviously informed the club that our door's always open. We're always happy to chat about things and offer advice. And I know that the City Matters reps do a great job as well of conveying a lot of that information across. But yeah, I think my personal experience of the meetings, without going into too much detail, was just it seemed like a bit of a waste of time. I felt we offered a lot and not that much changed from the first meeting through to the third, to be honest.
It is something you learn when you liaise with the club a lot, when you're trying to get results for fans, that you put a lot of effort in and get small results back. Now, it's actually a bit depressing at times when you're a City Matters rep because of that. But if you didn't do that, you get absolutely nothing. Yes. So because it is the only channel really to engage with the club over issues that affect match-going fans, I've got nothing but respect for the people who work on City Matters, because they put a hell of a lot of effort in. They get nothing for it, you know, no one's paid, and they do get stuff back from time to time. But the frustrating part is, if they listen to the supporters a lot more at the beginning and actually took on board what they said, they're nearly always constructive points that City Matters, and even the fan groups that are knocking around, usually make very positive points about things. So the thing about the North Stand is the meeting, certainly, it felt like a big missed opportunity. The last time we're going to develop the stadium, the way that we're going to design it, lends itself to being a great end for the supporters. Instead of 3 tiers, that one small tier and a great big one going up. So if they were to actually do as was being requested by the supporters on City Matters and outside of that, they could have absolutely nailed it with that stand. And then if they want 500 corporate seats somewhere in the stadium, we could probably work with them to find better areas to be able to do that. So it's just such a mistake. And then, of course, when we come a bit more up to date, they've completely botched the announcement of it. Only City could botch something as, such a good news story and make it into a bad one. They really are kind of, Midas in reverse, the people at our comms department.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I think, like you just said there, Mark, they botched it. I think there are some City fans who believe it wasn't botched; it was done on purpose.
Oh, they're not that smart, Martin. Honest to God,
well,
maybe
I agree.
Let me tell you, I've worked with them. The people say they're evil geniuses. There's no geniuses.
No, I will 100% validate that one. No, there's no genius pulling the strings there.
No, there's no smart plan. Believe me.
Right, that was one of the questions I've had a lot of feedback on. Was did they to announce it 30 minutes before? Some were getting emails 30 minutes before the announcement come out that morning. And
that will have been. Yeah, I see what you mean. That will have been to make sure that nobody went that their press release went to the papers.
Wasn't disrupted.
Complained. Yeah, right. So there's going to be that was the timing for that. Yeah, but that's botched, isn't it?
Yeah.
If they'd actually engaged with the individual supporters.
Is that Dante again? Yeah, it is Dante again.
If they've engaged with the individual supporters affected, and maybe brought them into the club, schmoozed them a little bit. Who knows? Talked to these supporters about what they were trying to do. But to get a cold email out of the blue that you weren't expecting, and then City are going round with that self-congratulatory tone that they have. This is going to be fantastic when people are getting moved and they don't want to. That's just like crass. That's just like really bad form. And they do this kind of thing all the time. And then you get fans who are sat near there start phoning up the club. Am I affected? So it isn't just the ones who got the email. Nearly everybody who sits in that area started to think, where's my email? Should I have had them in? Am I getting moved? So then the club get a load of phone calls. They really are rubbish at this kind of thing.
And the thing is on that, I know two of my nephews, because I sit in the North Stand. And now I've not been moved. I did get an email the next day. I'm not being moved because I'm lower down. I'm in row 13. So I'm too low down to be moved in the end. My two nephews are in block 038. They are being moved because they're higher up. But all they got was, you are being moved. Get in contact with the club. It wasn't.
Who's making all that noise?
I think it's Lee now. I'm just trying to work it out. The email they had, and I don't know what's known about this, is they were basically told you're going to be moved, get in contact with the club. That exactly what you just said. So all the club then did was just pile themselves up with 500 phone calls.
Yeah, of course they do this all the time.
To them. Yeah,
and then people can't get through and they get more annoyed. But the phone calls are generated by the incompetent fools at City.
So I don't know. Jed, I know. What are your thoughts on this? Because I know you are the guy who goes around the ground.
I used to.
I mean, I know you were very famous to the king of the Kipax fanzine.
Since Dave stopped producing it, I've not had as many views of the fans as I used to get. I mean, I go on Blue Moon a lot and see what they're saying, but it just seems to be the lack of information. But also, somebody mentioned before, one of the guys from City Matters said something about you don't put a corporate area in the middle of the stand if you want it to be a blue wall. And that is something that, I mean, Dante and I were at a meeting probably 12 years ago now with the club when they were talking about expanding the South Stand. And they were talking about the corporate area in the middle of the second tier. And we all said, that's going to kill the atmosphere. And they denied it. And of course it did. And then you get, you know, you get the whole thing with like Jones and 9320. I was in the East Stand just south of the corporate bit, and we didn't make that much noise in there, but we made a bit of a noise. But it gave a link between the lower tier near the visiting fans and the top tier of the East Stand. But once you had Joe's and 9320 in there, you killed that link. So again, it cut down on the noise. It gave that disconnect between the top and bottom tiers. And just shoving a corporate area, because with the best will in the world, the people that buy the corporate tickets might all be City fans. They might not be, but, you know, there might be City fans who want to schmooze a few guests. But the point is that there tends to be very little noise from those areas. So shoving it right in the middle of the North Stand, you know, it just kills everything.
Yeah, and that's my issue, because I'm in the lower part, because I got feedback on when I was at the game on Sunday, it won't affect us. Said, well, it will, because you're gonna have these rows here and then 500 informal corporate behind us. So as we're singing, there's gonna be like a cut in the middle of it that then disappears again. So I don't know what you're trying to get with
the thing is, you've already got a disconnect between the first tier and the second tier. That's always going to happen. Mm-hmm. To then have another disconnect between the front part of the extended stand, you know, the bit that's already there, the front bit of the upper tier at the moment, and the extended bit, you've got another disconnect being in there. But also you've got the issue that if those are not going to be season tickets, you know, where people are having the same seat every week, you're never going to get a regular core of singers in there. And that's been my biggest disappointment with this, that they're not going to be regular season ticket holders that will meet with the mates and make a noise every week.
But they might not want to sing. I mean, Nick said that in the chat. They might not want. They may moan about all the standing and the singing that's going on.
Absolutely, that could
depends
easily
what they're coming for.
Absolutely,
but it depends on what you want. If you want it to be a blue end, for want of a better phrase, if you want it to be a blue wall, then
I've been called that before, blue end.
Yeah, I think we all have. But no, if you want it to be a blue wall, then you've got to make provisions for that. And you can't, you've basically got to sell the tickets on the grounds that people will be standing, people will be singing, people might use the occasional naughty word. And, you know, that is football. You know, if you don't want the standing, go in the East Stand or the Colin Bell.
Well, that fully you should bring it up, Jed, because that is a point that Lucas made in the meetings, because obviously Lucas got a lot of experience with what's gone on in the South Stand, and that was to do with rail seating. Do you want to explain how that went, Lucas? I don't think we're...
Yeah, because I was going to ask about that, because there's many are very confused on this rail standing up section, where it is, what it's for, and who's meant to be going in there.
Yeah, so obviously rail seating was a big part of those discussions, and my request was that the entirety of North Stand Level 2 should have been rail seating all the way back, and I felt that would have really conveyed a strong message from the club that they do want this to be a blue wall with everybody in there stood up singing. Obviously that was you ask for everything, don't you? And you might get 50% of what you ask for or 60% of what you ask for and what have you. And then in the second meeting, the club proposed what they've released publicly now, which is, I think it's about 3,000 rail seats. However, they form like an N shape. across the back of the stand. So it comes down the two end blocks a little bit further, and then there's like a strip across the back. That's to do with sight lines. If you had, the central block all stood up, somebody sat in the block to the left or right of them wouldn't be able to see the opposite corner. The obvious way to get round that is just to fill from the back going forward in one big block. The issue with what they've done with the end shape of rail seating is that you're going to have like a thin strip of singers around the edge of a bunch of people sat down in between them. And it's obviously some people who sit down sing, a lot of people who sit down sing. But I think psychologically, if you're stood up, bunched in with everybody else who stood up singing, it's more likely to encourage you to stand up and sing. I'd also just touch on the point.
I'd agree with that, but I think there's one point to be made, that you've got people who are in the seated bits without the rail seating, and I think what we do need to do is push for the club not to enforce seating in those areas. Those tickets have got to be sold on the premise that people in that area often stand up. How legal that is with the no standing rule, I don't quite know. But the point is that it's been known for a long time that people in certain areas of certain grounds will always stand during the match. And
that's why we have rail seating, though, Jen. Rail seating makes it safe.
Yeah, but aren't you limited? Aren't clubs being limited, certainly in the past, to the number of rail seats that they could have? Wasn't it something like 3,000 when they first allowed it?
No. There's not an upper limit.
I meant when it was first introduced as like a trial thing 2 or 3 years back.
That was a long time ago. That now I think we could have more. What do you think, Lee?
So sorry, I had some tech issues, so apologies, missed on the chat. So as Lucas said on I think it was the second meeting. I was really glad that you pushed for the. Try to get the rail seating in the whole of that new stand, because I think that would have led to that natural atmosphere build up. But the club were very, very reluctant to it, and in fairness, there were some City Matters reps that were extremely reluctant to it as well, which I didn't quite understand, to be perfectly honest. And then this comes up to the whole sort of mishmash it's going to be of nothing to please no one. Is that the end shape that you describe of that 3,000 tickets? It's going to. The club say naturally, because of the way the new roof is built on the north stand, all the noise is going to generate and circulate, and it will go around the ground. I'm not quite so convinced on that, but those 3,000 rail seatings, I don't think is going to be sufficient. I think it's going to end up upsetting more people than it actually pleases. And of those people who are going to end up getting the season tickets in there, and yes, they are flexi tickets, but that's what the club consider as a season ticket. I don't think it is, and I know a lot of you don't, but that's what the club consider it as. They're going to go to the 18 to 24 fan groups, or the section of supporters. So the club's hoping that those young season ticket holders are going to generate all the noise in that north stand. But as I've said just a second or two ago, I don't think that's really going to happen. And it's going to probably, as I think Jed stated, probably going to upset those who are seating in the middle, and then the corporate, which are right in the middle of the whole block.
Well, they're also storing up trouble for themselves because they're a bit stupid. Because the people who are going to buy a seat right now when they become available in a non-standing area, if they extend the rail seating, they'll be asked to move. Oh, well, not asked to move. They'll be told it's converting from a standard seat to a rail seat, and we've got access issues there. There'll be some people who can't stand.
Yes.
So if they pick a seat in there, they're going to have this. They're going to have this all over again. People who bought a seat don't want a rail seat because it's not for everybody, but they've been given a seat which is not a rail seat. And if we want to make rail seats, they're going to be asked to move again. So they've got this problem again down. I
was about to ask this, Matt, because isn't at the back of the North Stand level 0 as it is now? That's where a lot of the wheelchair access go, and don't they? You're just coming into the
I think that pretty much stays. I think Lee might know more than me, but I think the wheelchair spaces that exist at the moment at the back of, is it called level 0 now? It used to be level 1. Those wheelchair spaces stay, and we're getting some additional ones.
Yes,
So-
you're correct.
But the only
Am I
reason I
right?
asked was
Well,
my nephews are 2 rows in front of them.
Right.
They've been moved.
Right. Well, I don't know about the move, but
That's
we're
why
getting
I'm
more
not
wheelchair
sure.
spaces, aren't we, Lee?
Yeah.
Yes, and I believe some of the extra ones were going to be just to the side of the north stand, so into a little bit into the east and the west. But I would have to double check the plan. But again, you
Yeah,
don't
because there are people at the back. It's generally the people at the back of level 0, as they call
Yeah.
it now.
Yeah.
They're the ones being told to vacate out. And that's why I was wondering, but that's where the wheelchair access people are. So why are they being moved? Because that was a question from my
We'll have to
nephew.
look
Why am
into
I
that.
being moved? And they're only and I'm only 2 rows in front of them. Where are they going?
We'll have to look into it. I
Yeah,
don't think anybody
I'll take
knows.
that away. I'll take that away. Anything that comes up today that I can't answer right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. By the way, I know there's people going, after certain people in the comments, and it is, I get it. There's a lot of anger behind it. I believe because for me, I'm only asking the question because these have been asked to me. Is there room to put 500 people, for example, into the lower levels? Because that's the big question. Because when I'm at the games now, I'm asked this, whether they keep tickets, hold them back, whatever. Say 500 people move and none of them want to go to level 3. Is there room to maneuver them all into the lower levels if they choose to move?
Well, there's room to find seats for a coachload of fans from Dundee who've got no link to the club whatsoever, who will be attending on Sunday. So I think there may be some seats that go to Viagogo and these other reseller sites that are in the corners, but they're not. No one's going to get the same quality seat that they are used to, and no one's going to get the same view they're used to, unless they pay a lot more.
This is the same issue we face with the Tunnel Club. There's a load of people all over the ground who've been shifted for the Tunnel Club. Loads of people got shifted for Joe's and 9320.
Yeah, I was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, because when we moved from Main Road, and my cousins had really good seats in the main stand at Main Road, and the seats that they put them in when we moved were nowhere near that good, and eventually they got decent seats and ended up being shifted for the Tunnel Club. 12 years later. These are people that have had season tickets for 20 odd years at Main Road.
So I'd like to say a couple of things. It was people made the point about in the South Stand's got an identity. So a lot of season ticket holders, people do sing. The Colin Bell's got an identity, and the East Stand's got an identity. The North Stand was the family stand. People came over from the Kippax 2 tiers to the East Stand. I think the North Stand's going to end up with like a lack of identity. I don't really know what it's supposed to be now. Is it supposed to be a singing end? Is it supposed to be, court premium facilities? Because we fear that, there's no information on prices here, is there? So we fear that they're going to try and put the prices up and say, you've got these extra facilities. Well, that's not what people want. How can anybody make a decision about whether to stay in that area or move to that area? And this had been planned 2-3 years ago, but we don't have any information on prices whatsoever. And if they're saying to people who have been forced to move, we'll keep your price the same for 2 years, maybe that means they're planning to put other prices up, for people. So what is this stand, like people said, it's going to end up like pleasing nobody. And how can people make a decision about what's going to happen next? And this goes back to lack of consultation. This goes back to, this is what United do. Oh, we'll send you an email, you're being moved, take it or leave it, and that's it. Surely we are better than that. Surely we as a club should be actually doing some things in a different way here. But this is why these people are absolutely hopping mad. And some of them are saying that they're probably not going to renew next season, which may be what the club wants. So these people have got nothing to lose, and the club really needs to go and address them and speak to them, and they need to really come clean about what they intend here, because the whole fan base, you see it on like Blue Moon website and stuff. For everybody that says, "Oh, why aren't you going over there?" We surveyed people, like Lucas said, and the first meeting, there was no provision for any rail seating whatsoever. There was no safe standing section whatsoever. And we came up with Well, there's 7,000 people standing at the moment in the stadium, but split amongst South Lower, the corner of the Kipax, and the back kind of 314s all standing, and the back 7-8 rows of 315 to 318. There's 7,000, but they're all mixed up in different areas. And when we go to Wembley, the whole of the lower tier is standing and singing, and that's 19,000. So for people who say we haven't got enough singers, we haven't enough people who would go to there, we have. And what we also wanted to do was make sure that the season ticket prices, the prices are going to be right. We want to make sure that if you're not going to the game, that ticket would go to, it's not going to go to a reseller, because we've seen in the South Stand where our section is, if somebody's not going to the game, they either have to sell the ticket back to the club, which then goes on a resale basis, or they've got a limited number of games where they can give it to family and friends. So the restrictions are not working. There's no protection we've had no protection for a singing area in the last 10 years. So there's no guarantee there's going to be any protection for a singing area. We don't think it's genuine. We don't think they mean it when they say we want an atmospheric area. They want the revenue, and if the atmosphere comes as well, that's a bit of a Brucey bonus. So how can you have an atmosphere where you plonk a few in one corner, you plonk a few in another corner, they're split up? If you turn around and said, we're going to make all the seats, whatever, 400, 500 quid, it's going to be a proper end, you'll have two ends singing into each other, you could actually move, people would go, right, okay, that sounds absolutely brilliant, we're going to buy into it, there's enough money, you can, like I say, with what Toddy said, you can actually get different areas where you can put the corporate in or the hospitality in. And also what we said, they said to us, we want you to be like anchor tenants, in other words, we want an atmospheric end. But it's got to work, hasn't it? And the thing is, we could be used by the club. If we'd have said, oh, we're going to go over there, no problem, and now we find out last minute 500 people are being moved, then everyone would have blamed us and said, you want your daft little section, and we're having to do because of you. So we were going to be used, thrown under the bus by the club, because they wanted to be the scapegoat for that. And we said, well, listen, tell us about the season ticket prices, tell us about the match ticket prices, tell us how you're going to protect it. We want season tickets, not Flexi Gold, because since Flexi Gold has come in, the atmosphere has gone worse. Since Flexi Gold has come in, the security in the stadium's got worse. There's been more trouble with away fans coming in the stadium because the ticket goes back to the club and they put it on a website. So the whole point of Flexi Gold is not for flexibility for fans, it's for the club to make more money and keep an artificial price high. Oh, it should be 71 quid, it should be 80, now it's 60. It should be that price all the time, which is rubbish. You only get an atmosphere when the same people are around you. I know we've got new fans, but they should be able to accommodate everybody. You get familiarity, you're around the same people are confident to sing and shout and this sort of thing, and that's how you get the atmosphere. But if it's going to be a stand of individuals, it's not going to work atmosphere-wise. And then moving 500 people who kind of really all know each other, and they're all together, you're taking everything away from people. And I would say to people who isn't like in the South Stand, if this section was going into South Lower now, into Block 017 or 016, people will be hopping mad about it. People need to see that it could happen to any of us at any time in this stadium. They don't mind if that ground was like Luton Town in the 80s, where it was a one stand full of corporate hospitality. That's what they would go for. So really, what these fans in the North Stand are saying is things have got to change now. Things have got to change a little bit. The way the club communicates with fans, makes the decisions. If you want a revenue end and a corporate end, just come clean and say that's what you want. But don't say one thing and then do something else, because that's just rubbish. There's a vacuum.
They don't even know the price. They're asking people to make a decision.
No.
It's like saying, we want you to buy this car. We're not telling you what the price is going to be, but we want you to swap your car over to this.
Yeah, well, we fear it's planned all along where they want a higher price, and they'll turn around and say, well, you've got more aisle room, your premium facilities, so they're going to try and do it where it's maybe a little bit higher. But, even the FSA are writing to them saying you need it to have a price freeze for 3 years now. They're building a nice stand, but at completely the wrong time, because there's no money around there. There's no money for people, even tourists. They will fill the hospitality for the Big Six games and for the knockout games, the Champions League games. But for other games, they'll be reducing the prices 2.5 weeks before the game starts. Buy one, buy four. But at the same time, have restrictions. You can't give a ticket to another season ticket holder. There's people making decisions who have absolutely no idea what they're doing. They're in the wrong career. They should not be anywhere near this club.
I think a wider thing to put the North Stand into context as well, Dante, is a lot of the things that you've just spoken about, the policies by the club that any sort of rational-minded City fan can see, that they're all kind of focused on revenue driving. Traditional season ticket holders don't generate as much revenue as a seat that can be sold as a match day ticket would. And that's why you end up with these policies like the new 10-game minimum attendance policy that's been brought in. Even though the seat's been paid for the full 19 games, the club have obviously identified its missed revenue there if the ticket's being passed on, or other things when that one person is not attending. However, it seems like they're gearing up to try and reduce the number of traditional season card holders. So, for example, on the weekend, my dad was ill. On the morning of the game, he couldn't go. You can no longer list the ticket on the exchange because it was within 24 hours till kickoff. He couldn't transfer the ticket to his mate because he hadn't registered his mate as a friend in the window a few weeks ago. So that's one mark against him now, which I know it's only 10 games that you have to attend now, which seems, you'd have to miss 9. But as we've seen with some of the other policies, it creeps up every year. How do we know it's not going to be 11 games the next season and 12 the season after?
But if you don't look after season ticket holders and the fans generally, Lucas, as we know, they think, oh well, they're only spending a certain amount of money, but they couldn't spend a lot more because they would bring all the family to certain games if the price point was right. Yeah. They would come off the Champions League Cup scheme, and we've got big games where they're only selling out like the day before, and that means that when you have a not so big game, the game won't sell out because the prices are all wrong. So they don't, if eventually those fans stop going, they get out the habit of going, they pick and choose which games they're going to go to, and there's not enough fans to replace them because the tourists will only come for certain games. They won't come for other games. You know what I mean? These guys from Dundee are not going to come to the Bournemouth game. They're not going to come for Sunderland or Crystal Palace. Well, they'll come for Liverpool, just like they want to go to Newcastle, Barcelona. But our club is actually prioritising those people, and when fans then turn around and say, stop it and go back, they dig in and say, no, we're going to stick with our decision, we're going to be stubborn, and we're going to go ahead with it. At the same time as sending an email out 5 minutes before we make a press announcement saying, you're going to lose your seat. The priorities are all wrong, so it's about trust. For the fantastic things that, I'm not blaming the owners here. The owners want to maximise revenue, but it's the middle management that are carrying out these decisions. And, it's not Spanair, and it's not a failed, we've had people who've bankrupt airlines and made bad decisions before. This is a football industry. They don't know their own fan base. They never have known the fan, and they don't want to know the fan base. And they need to understand that the fan base will be here after they've left and gone back to Barcelona.
Yeah, they think they're being smart. They think it's being smart when it comes to income revenue because on paper it looks that way. If we restrict people passing tickets around, someone's going to go and buy a membership. There's 30 quid straight away, and then this and then that. But it actually doesn't work like that, and they can't say they haven't been told because City Matters does really good work on this. They can never say they've not been told about these issues. When I've been on City Matters meetings when I was there, and I know Lee since, they get told this won't work. They get told this isn't how it operates. And it's actually economically illiterate to do what they do. It makes no sense because exactly as Dante says, amongst football fans, if you make it harder for us to bring people along, we bring occasional fans along. If you make it harder for us to do that, that's somebody who could become a regular supporter, could buy a season ticket, might come to a Champions League game. We do more of that work than they do.
Why are we the only club? Why are we the only club that's got flexi season, flexi gold? There's no one else does it. If it was that good, they'd all be doing it, wouldn't they? It's the biggest con trick ever. And I know Lee can't control everyone at City Matters, but that's where we agree with most of what you guys kind of do. But we're different to that in terms of we're judging atmosphere, and when it's quiet, everyone will say, "Oh, 894 don't do anything," But we've given suggestions, and we've never had a place on City Matters. If there's a rep for everything, isn't there? And if they were asked about atmosphere, they would say, "Well, okay, you can have why don't you work with us? So we got on these meetings because we were the fall guys, not because we really wanted to hear about atmosphere, because it was, we think, well, if we get them on board, let them have the section, this, that, and the other, and then at the same, we can move all these, prices up. They'll be the fall guys. We might be wrong, but that's how we feel about it. We went into those meetings with real good faith, surveyed, give information, and it was like, you may as well talk to a brick wall because it's not what we wanted to hear.
Okay.
I think it's also worth pointing out before people say this will fail, that will fail, the other will fail. I think it's worth pointing out that if they open the North Stand, the extension, as it was originally planned, around about the end of January, early February, you're going to have 3 months, I believe, of a lot of empty seats in there. Not because, it's simply because they've spent years bunging the prices through the roof and annoying people with the silly passing on restrictions and attendance restrictions. The whole point about demanding a certain number of attendances when games get moved all over the place is ridiculous. But when the North Stand is open, if we're not doing particularly well over Christmas, and I'm talking about particularly well by the standards we've done over the past 10 years, if we're third, like we finished last year, we're not going to be selling out a lot of those games after Christmas. And I'm hoping that the ticket sales are quite poor. Not that I want them to be poor, but I think if they were poor ticket sales, if the stand opens, with some of this season left, then that will show the club that they've got it wrong. And
I think, Jed, I don't think anyone really wants it to, we don't want to be proved right, at the end of the day, because we all fear
exactly.
that the stand's going to be a white elephant. That's what we fear. We fear that, I saw a great comment on Blue Moon the other day. It said, if the club don't sell their seat for 9 games, so the club lose their seat as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what they threaten us with. You need to know that the fan base, sometimes you can't go, someone's ill, there's a problem, you need to shift your ticket last minute to friends and family. Why have there got to be so many restrictions? And they don't have the restrictions in those corporate areas, do they? You know what I mean?
And also, the club are saying that you've got to pass it on to people that that are registered as the friends and family. But then they're now making loads of tickets available, for various games that aren't selling out, and there's no guarantee who's going to be using the seats. And of course, for all the official ticket touts or the agencies, they can sell to anybody.
They're also going very much onto the third-party sites, the people who sell the tickets for face value, people like Daz Clark and stuff like that. Even on Blue Moon, they're monitoring people who go onto their website, go onto their thingy. Someone's selling a ticket for face value or whatever it may be. The person then turns up at the ground and it's blocked out. They can't actually get into the stadium. I mean, it's like 1984, isn't it?
Yeah. Sorry, Dante, but so on the weekend, like I referenced earlier, that my dad was ill, he couldn't go. We had somebody who was gonna go and use his ticket, but he found out he had to buy a membership for £30 for us to be able to transfer it to him. Which we could have done, but he just said, no, I'm not doing that. Like I'm not paying £30 extra on top of the face value for the ticket or whatever to go. It says everything you need it to, where it's not necessarily about concern for who's sitting in the seat, because if the person pays £30, that doesn't matter anymore. It's literally just a revenue tool rather than a security tool.
The other thing is, the economy's flatlining at the minute. There's not the same money splashing around. Probably, for another 12 months, 2 years, whatever. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous how they think. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, what is?
We're in a race with the league, and we want to generate more money than Real Madrid. Don't get me wrong. I understand how all that works, but there is a thing of PR as well, which is the damage that is done by. How can somebody? We had all the protests in April, and if you don't speak to these fans, in the North Stand, anything could happen. You know, I think they're quite dug in, these North Stand fans. And I'm sure the club don't want the same kind of scenes as what happened before, you know. But
so what is the net? What is the best? Because here's my thing. Because like I think Jed said it. I don't know if it's changed, but the belief is, or the latest rumours and news is this still due to open January, February 2026?
Is it March now fully?
Has that been changed back now?
Not a clue. You've got to remember they won't. Oh, I'll wait for that noise to stop. You've got to remember they won't just open it. So there'll be soft openings. There'll be a few people in it for a match. Then there'll be a bit more. So there won't be suddenly ta-da, cut a ribbon and there's 6,000 people in the top bit.
Yeah.
So it'll be slowly but surely. And I imagine they won't be even filling it much before the end of the season. They'll take their time over that. They'll have to for security and safety.
Don't they do 1,000 first and then like 10,000?
Didn't the extended South Stand open pretty much in one go? When they put the third tier on.
I think you have test events, don't you? You have 1,000, then you have 10,000. I'm pretty sure that's how it was. I can't even remember, but I'm pretty sure there would have been test events. The council's got to sign off.
There was test events when we moved grounds, but there was like a one-day thing where there's hardly anybody in, but you could walk around the ground. And then the capacity for the game against Barcelona and TNS were a bit low because they were test events. But I don't recall any test events when they extended the South Stand.
Yeah, there would have been. There will be for the new North Stand.
Yeah, there is.
There will have to be a minimum of 2, I think.
They were over the summer because the South Stand level 3 opened for the first home game of the season. So I think there was like a youth game or a women's game.
Open training? Was there an open?
Yeah, I think it was open training. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking because I think there's comments in here and it's been said. I think some think this can just be stopped, reversed, and we go right back. From my understanding, this is too far down the line. Stop, reverse, and here we go again.
Well, I would say this, and Lee was in those meetings with City Matters in May, where right to the last minute, they were trying to put a 2.8% price increase on prices, and it was only the protests that kind of made them think, right, okay, we need to deal with the fan groups and the elected fan reps in a different way, because City Matters then held their own and said, no, we're not accepting any price rise whatsoever, at that time. So the club will want to progress, but if this new stand's not going to work, and there's problems, surely there's always time to have concessions there. The first thing you should be doing is reaching out and speaking to people. And I don't understand after the protest in April and May, where they turned around and said, we want to build bridges, we want to have a new relationship with the fans, we're not going to take you for granted anymore, we're going to reach out, new spirit, and then they do something like that. That's where the trust breaks down. It's like, why would you do that after you've just had those scenes in April? Do you not learn from anything?
So what is it? Because I get we want to open the line of communication now, get back round, whether it's Solid Citizen, City Matters 894, or all three. We go in, we have a meeting. What is it people are now wanting? That's what I'm trying to.
Yeah, obviously, there's a WhatsApp group with quite a number of people in there now, and they're still adding people at the weekend and this sort of thing. So the first point is that they want some contact from the club, and the first thing they can do is, for example, there's one lad. It was on Radio Manchester this evening. Simon Pachalski, who's a good guy, from Easy News, is contacting him straight away. Can we do an interview tomorrow, for the papers? Well, if he can pick up the phone and speak to one of these fans, why can't someone in the club pick up the phone and speak to one of these fans? Firstly, they could even put an announcement out there saying, this is why we did the announcement as we did. Don't treat people like for fools. It just brings up bad feeling. And it could be any part of the ground. And I know there wasn't the same fuss with the Sutton areas of the club, but I don't think the fans were as organised at that time. And it's like, if people don't put stand here, and it'll be something else and something else. And eventually that people just walk away. So, you know, I hope he turns around to Simon and says, you ask the club, because Simon always goes when he rings 894 and says, "Have you got a comment about this, that, and the other?" He always goes to the club to get a quote for balance. But when he puts a quote out from the club, he never rings us for balance. It's just club propaganda. So I hope he turns around and gets a quote tomorrow and gives a reason why they've done it in this way, because that's what those fans want. Once they get a meeting, they can work out what they want to say in that time. I think the general gist is the fans want to know, is there anything that can be done? They said the 3,000, well, that could be extended, extra singing areas can be extended if the demand's there. That's very hard to do when people are going to be buying a seat and expect to sit in a seat, and then they're going to have to be moved again, like Mark said. It just, what we're seeing from our surveying is the people in the South Stand want to stay in the South Stand. The people in the North Stand want to stay in the North Stand. We were quite happy to sort of try and get people to go in the upper bit, because it was a new area and it meant that nobody had to lose their seat, nobody had to change seats. If people move into the area, it's voluntarily done, not forced on anybody. And
that's what I'm saying, Danny. There will have been fans who have rang the club last week. They will have spoke to them. The club will have said, well, this is what we're going to do, because there will have been some fans who will have.
No, they've not said anything. They've not said anything, Martin. That's what I'm saying is, you know, you expect them to say, right, okay, we're going to come back to you on this day, and this is what we're going to do. It could be, you know, give us one or two of your main representatives, come in, have a chat, or put something out there. But
so
that's what I'm saying.
People who are moving to ring the club, what are they achieving out of that then?
Say that again, Martin.
So because there are people who have been told to ring the club. If you get that email, for example,
on the mail, yeah,
and you're told you're going to have to move, they don't give you much hope. It's like Mark said earlier on, phone the club. Some will have already done that, and I'm guessing they will have been told what the next step is for them.
No, so they've rang the club and then there's been nothing there. So it's like ringing the speaking clock. If you put a mail out saying ring us, we'll tell you the next step. Yeah. So this is the other thing. I asked Lee when the next City Matters meeting is. It's the 19th of November, isn't it, Lee? So, you know, you'd think City normally like to announce things, if you like, through City Matters. They give them sort of first dabs and information or whatever, but. Certainly, you know, people would want to know by then.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm asking. Is there a way to reverse this to get this done better? Or are people...
do you want me to come in on this one, I think?
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to stress that, obviously, people might think City Matters are a collective who go in with all behind one another, and we are all individual reps, and to try to get some form of collective decision making is difficult. I've taken on the chair from Alex, who did a great job, and he struggled as well, and I'm finding similar struggles. So I will speak now as an individual rep rather than anyone thinking I'm now speaking on behalf of all City Matters. I think this decision is reversible if the club wanted to do it. Now, that's the key element to me for this. Do the club actually want to do it? And I think it was talked about before by Mark and Lucas that sometimes the club come to City Matters and just pretty much tell you it's done. And that was an element of the North Stand conversation. You try to say, look, this is a really, really bad idea. It's going to land really poorly. And it feels like you're just talking to the brick wall. They don't seem to care. And don't get me wrong, there's some people in the club who've been there a long time since the main road days, and they do generally care. But I think there's too many corporate types in the club at that middle management level who really just don't care, and just don't care about football fans and don't care about us. And that's, as I said, go back to that point I made at the start. That's me.
Yeah, one thing, like, I know this from doing these shows. A lot of people think the people in Manchester City are all Manchester City fans and we're all one big fan.
Way.
I said it don't work that way. I said there's Chelsea, there's also, it's a job to some of them.
They purposely don't put City fans in key positions because they think they're going to be too emotional about it, so they want them to be ruthless. But they also, you've got to understand at least the football industry and know your own market, and they don't even know the football industry.
Go on, Lee, what were you going to say?
So I was going to add, I'm still really disappointed that the club promised that they were going to have a meeting with 1894, Food Bank, Trade Union Blues, a couple of the groups, Solid Citizens, I think, as well, around the 10 games in-person policy. That's never transpired. So I think you are right that the other fan groups other than City Matters should demand a meeting about the North Stand. I'm just not convinced club will do anything. And it's sad for me to say that for someone who, I'm not here to defend the club. City Matters isn't a defend the club organisation. It's to challenge the club. It's to be the voice in the room of everyone who's a fan to say, look, if you do this decision, it's going to go horribly wrong. And as I said before, sometimes you just don't listen or don't care. You could take your pick, maybe both. I do think you should call for meeting with the club.
Which is when, on the 19th?
So the 19th is the next City Matters full group meeting. And what the club have agreed with myself is at every meeting we will discuss the North Stand as a main topic point. So the North Stand will come up, and my email's out there. If you want any feedback that wants to go into that room at that time, I will guarantee you everyone's views will be put across. But I still think there's need for a separate meeting, potentially before.
Well, certainly we can facilitate the people we're speaking to. We can get that feedback over to you, Lee, over the next few days. That sounds really helpful.
I think another more general thing. So the original question you asked, Martin, was about what's the best outcome? For what ideally would happen next for these fans, and even if this might be the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of those affected fans. But it's more just fan treatment generally. So if you are a fan that is, being moved out of the North Stand, out of seats you've been in for 20 plus years or something, if you then come to springtime next year and find out the increase in season ticket prices again, that's another sort of kick in the teeth. That's another potential issue that is going to further upset the so-called legacy fans. I think there's kind of two issues that we're talking about here. One is obviously the affected fans in the North Stand who've been kicked out, and the other is the kind of potential lost opportunity with the North Stand as an atmospheric home. And I've seen there's been quite a lot of comments and things put in saying, would 1894 move to the North Stand? If this happened, and if the club did this or that, or what do we want and things. And I think, firstly, it's important to just accept that there are limitations on what will be achieved here. So
that's what I say. It's still down to the club. You can beg, do everything you can. Because I know some are asking, are we still going to get the blue wall? The stand's up. The foundations are in. You can't just knock that down and get the blue wall fucking at this point.
Yeah. Well, the seats are in, which that's with the rail seating as an example, even if 6,000 City fans turn around and said they want to be stood up in rail seats in the North Stand now, it's not going to happen for probably till the summer. So it's that type of message that has come out, and obviously there's people saying, would 1894 move to the North Stand? And even in in a perfect world where everything was, everything we requested we got and what have you, there's still limitations on what we can do. 1894 aren't going to click our fingers and 5,000 fans move from South Stand level 1 into North Stand level 2. I mean, there's when we surveyed fans, a lot of the feedback we got was they want to be in level 1, they don't want to be in level 2. They want to be close to the away fans, and if you think back to Main Road, the city's atmosphere has pretty much always been generated close to the away fans.
Lucas, when we had the survey, and the reason I went into that meeting asked for the 7,000 places was because, and I was surprised, there's a lot of people now who are saying, well, I don't see the point in moving. I like my seat in the South Stand. I know everyone around me. But a year ago, they were going, well, we need to. I'd consider it if the club took it seriously. Don't do it flaky. Don't do it half-heartedly. If they actually come up with a solution which is like really going to be atmosphere, I mean, really make it a proper end, then we will be open to looking at that, and that's why we went in with those figures. Because that was, what people wanted something to buy into. People wanted something to dream. We go to European games watching City, you have two ends singing at each other. It's possible. It's possible if you want to make the atmosphere something special.
We're playing Dortmund tomorrow night, aren't we? Which is the classic example of, could you imagine Borussia Dortmund turning around to their ultras and saying, right, we're going to move 500 fans out of the yellow wall to put a new hospitality section, but don't worry, we'll put them up in a lovely section somewhere else. It just wouldn't happen. So that's
I think the identity, they've worked out what their identity is. Their identity is, we have that end. Yeah. They still make lots of money. They still get to Champions League finals. They're still a successful football club. I know we want to be the number one for revenue, but a club like Manchester City have to do it through prize money. They can't do it through milking another 5, 10, 15 quid out of me and you from Greater Manchester, or even some guy over an holiday.
What I was going to ask is, because I know there are some fans who are already thinking it's done, jacked it in, they don't want to renew. Some are even thinking of giving up now. Is there any messages to them you think we could send of don't give it up, stay with it?
I would
never
say,
give in, always renew.
Yeah, I would say if you're not renewing, then that is an extra match day ticket the club can sell for 70 quid a game. If you're buying the season ticket, it's 30, 40, 50 quid a game. So
never give
I only ask that because I know there are people who they've said this is the straw that broke the
We speak to lots of people who've done it already. There's quite a lot of people who did not renew over the summer. And I imagine it'll be more if the prices go up this season, as well as some of the other things where fans have been, treated perhaps as an afterthought. It will be substantial numbers this year. I do think there's a lot of fans who are close to breaking point.
Yeah.
When Pep goes, you might see a lot of people back it up.
The whole thing about fans being close to the breaking point is, I think that is what we're going to see. If the stand is open before the end of this season, unless we're doing really well, if we end up playing a semi-final against Real Madrid again, then obviously that's a different matter. But you look at the attendances, the last couple of games of last season, whoever it was, Wolves and Villa or something like that, that would generate poor attendances. And the reason I would always tell people to always renew your ticket is because there's plenty of chance the club will change their mind. The club can always move our way if they think it's going to be beneficial. So I'd always recommend renewing.
The club will always try and push things to the absolute last minute. They will move, but only if they're absolutely forced to. And that's usually through bad PR, through something in the media where it's a storm and they want it killed. So, it's really in the club's, the ball's in the club's court, really, isn't it? We still don't know any prices for the North Stand. So, how can anyone say, oh, you're wasting an opportunity, you're not going to the North Stand? What's the price then, mate? We don't know the price. So how can you make a decision if you don't know the price? 2-3 years later on.
So just on the prices, I know it's been mentioned a couple of times. I wanted to jump in before. So the club have said that they're not going to discuss prices for the North Stand until the full renewal and season ticket prices get discussed, which they have said is going to be January. So I know no more than that, but that's what they've said to us. So that's probably when ticket prices are going to start getting discussed. I have no idea.
Okay, so
that will be too late, Lee, for some though.
I know,
yeah, but Lee,
I'm being honest with what I've got. Yeah.
Yeah, Lee.
Yeah,
so
no, it's not you, mate. I know it's not you.
Yeah.
Lee, so you can't sell a vision without all the information, can you?
No, I know.
So how can you say, this is our thing, we'll have a new stand, that they've been, look at the facilities, they'll have people going on the website, look at our new hotel, look at our new this, that, and the other. I bet they know the prices for the hotel rooms.
Yeah,
So,
we will.
I'm sure they'll have ideas for what prices and what they charge. They're not disclosing anything yet.
A club works 3-5 years in advance. They will want to know what their revenue is. So Roll Degrees, whoever it is, will say, right, we want to double income, match non-income, not match the income, want to double it over the next 5 years or 10 years, whatever it may be. They'll know what they want to charge, and they should be speaking to fans like yourself and saying, well, that bit's possible, that bit isn't possible. You need to find it somewhere else, from somewhere else in the team.
That is something that we've asked for. What is your clear ticketing and pricing strategy? Not just every year you turn around and come up with something. You've got a strategy there somewhere. Every business would have a strategy and a plan of what they can see in the next 5, 10, 15, even maybe beyond. And they've got that written down somewhere, but they won't share it. And they need to, because they need to start communicating and engaging as early as possible, so you can stop some of these poor decision makings that happens, and some of these.
The other thing as well, Lee, is for all of us here, always in the stream here, and not to overdo our own kind of influence or something, but the best asset that this club had was the fans. You know, we were shit for 35 years and stuff, and we were still going 47,000 every week at the then State of Manchester Stadium. You know, they should be working with you, elected reps, and elected reps should be going in that room feeling that, you know, I don't have to cower, I don't have to watch my P's and Q's. I can actually say what I feel, and I'll get some measure of listening to. I won't get everything that I want, but it'll be a kind of a relationship based on mutual respect. The fans really want to work with the club. You know, we don't. It's not our relationship with the club is all not negative. We have a really good working relationship with lots of different levels of the club, including tomorrow night. And we do think it's going to be loud tomorrow, by the way, because we've got a couple of surprises up our sleeves. We think it's going to be a good atmosphere tomorrow. But we're not against the club. You know, we love the club, but we're not. It's not a two-way relationship. We're being dictated to, like, you know, this is it. This is what we're going to do. Take it or leave it. That's bollocks. And anybody who's out there thinking, well, you know, what are you going to do? The owners gave us this, the owners gave us that. I'm not saying get rid of the owners. We're saying just take people with you and value them. Take them with it, give them a bit of respect. And the people who go in the room like Lee, give up his free time every day. Give him some respect.
Yeah, I mean, I think let's keep saying names. I don't think we're at the stage where we can start mud throwing at names in the boardroom.
It's not necessarily about names as well, though.
We're trying to build bridges, not break. At the same time.
We said to the club, didn't we? We wrote to Roland, we wrote to Caldoon, and he's, you know, and it got passed on because we had a message in between saying, "Oh, would you take a 3-2%?" No, we would, and it was saying, "Listen, it's a false economy. Do a price freeze. You'll find that people go more and more. They will go to these Carabao Cup ties. You know, it should be 55,000 against Brentford. There might only be 38, 42, who knows? You know, but that ground should be full for every single game. The fans want to go to every single game. But with these restrictions that came in afterwards, making it harder for people to actually go to the game, bring the family. And there's plenty of games where the glory fans won't go. That's when you need the real fans to attend these games. And, you know, not everybody likes the trade union blues. They don't like their politics, whatever. And they made a point saying, you know, these restrictions, they went to a solicitor and they said these are really unlawful. And there is a case there if people wanted to take it forward. So these restrictions are daft. You know, you want to fill the ground every single game, and that's how you get the atmosphere. You get the atmosphere where there's, you know, 15,000 empty seats there. It needs to be full every game. We all want the same thing, surely.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, and that's what we want. Now, like I said, this is not, you know, there's going to be. Does anyone else want to add anything more onto this? Because there are a couple of people who've said we need to start again regarding it. That's the thing. I don't think you're going to get a whole let's go back to the drawing board, knock it all that down and go again.
No, I think basically, you know, at the end of the day, as Lee said, maybe some things can be pushed back on here. So, you know, we've all discussed it. I think really, you know, there's nothing much more to say other than there's a problem with the North Stand and there's a problem with people being trod on. And
It's about treating fans correctly, and that's what we are. We're fans. We're not customers. We're fans.
Well,
yeah.
Let's see what happens over the next few days.
A further point I'd add on it as well is that I hope I'm completely wrong and that the North Stand is incredibly atmospheric and it really improves the atmosphere and it works perfectly. Like, I'd re-emphasize the point that everybody here wants a good atmosphere at the Etihad, regardless of where it comes from. We just feel concerned or disappointed that we're missing this big opportunity to do it. So it's not a case of us, saying the North Stand's going to be terrible, it's going to be crap, it's this and that. We want it to do well, which is why we're on a podcast at 9 o'clock at night chatting about it and talking about it, because we're that passionate that we want it to be this good. So yeah, fingers crossed we're proved wrong, and this time next year we're all talking about how good the atmosphere is.
Yeah, I know.
But why is he dropping this City Hall thing in at this moment? Why wasn't that mentioned a year ago? Why has he got to be drip feed? Everything has been drip feeding this, the details, and there's a vacuum there where people speculate, and it's negative. It should be the most positive thing in the whole world, and it's now negative. And like, we're conscious that we don't want to be seen as minis all the time or attacking the club all the time, but people look to us to try and speak up because you can raise your voice and get things out through the media.
Right.
So
Could be something we're proud of that we're going to show off and get it really going. And we feel as though, I don't want to use the word white elephant, but I think people feel that's what it's going to be, and it shouldn't be. This should be something that we show off. We want to show it off for the owners and the board and everything. We want us in there.
Yeah, but do they want us in there? Or do they want, a coach load of people?
You know what?
No,
I'm going to give my opinion on this now. This is just my opinion. Do you know what I think? And I said this to you privately. This is just my opinion. I think eventually they will want all the lower area like they do around the world. So you sit at the front of a concert, nearest to the artist, you pay the most. You sit courtside of a basketball game, you pay the most. They don't want me.
You give
having a free season ticket, 5 rows from the front. Bang me into level 3, mate. See ya. I can sell this for God knows what. You pick side.
If that's announced in January, we'll know who to blame now.
Yeah.
No, that's just my view. That's what I think. Because
Martin, you might have given them an idea they hadn't even thought of there.
Yeah,
I think getting a job before you know it.
Their actions say that the fans generally are not. They're treated as an afterthought because it's not about add 3 rows at the bottom to get them closer to the pitch. It's about get rid of those 3 rows so we can have little high advertising boards and generate more revenue that way. You have to look at what they've done.
I know what you mean by that.
So Omar Barada, when he was at the club before he, left to United.
How did I know that name was going to come out your mouth?
Well, he supposedly has said that he enjoyed COVID because it meant that they didn't have to worry about fans or be concerned with the fans to the game, which. Thankfully, he's no longer at the club. It's working his magic over at Old Trafford. It's going brilliantly for him. But when that's the kind of culture around the club and they're the people that are brought in, that's why we end up with the decisions that we see, because fans aren't being treated as the primary. But we're like 7th, 8th, 9th on that list of priorities.
Question here, I think. When did the fans officially know about these plans, and when were the planning permission requested by the club? Which came first? Does anyone? I don't know if you're allowed or whether what. I don't know whether there's still an NDA in place on that.
In terms of planning permission, I don't think that was ever really provided to us. To be perfectly honest, I'm guessing it would have been ages back in the process.
With the planning permission, it mainly focused on things like bar areas and that kind of stuff, which it hasn't changed, and that was there before our first meeting with the club, and obviously as planning permission that was submitted and approved and construction had begun at that point, it was incredibly unlikely that that was going to be changed following on from discussions of our meeting. And so that's all publicly available information in the plans. I mean, things like where the GA plus seats are at the front of North Stand level 2, they are there because there is a bar behind that section. And so when suggestions were made about other more convenient places to locate those, I think it's like 600 GA plus tickets or something. I could be getting that wrong, but obviously it's not going to happen. Just put this nice bar behind them for them to conveniently and easily access, which yeah, it is what it is, I guess. But so yeah, the planning permission was submitted prior to these meetings. And
did we have did the club get like a 5-year period from the council where they could then build that North Stand and build the hotel, everything? And then it didn't happen initially. They obviously got the ducks in a row beforehand, and then had the meeting with City Matters first of all, like, you know, we're going to start talking to you, which isn't really a two-way conversation. It's just, this is what we're doing. If you've got any questions, and then we got brought into it after that as well. We think just, you know, to tick a box really, but they already would have had a lot of their plans already further down the line, and you know, before these meetings took place. And by NDAing it, it means that, oh, well, so we got round it by saying we've got an NDA, so we would like to say more, but there's only so much we could do. So we didn't break any of the NDA confidences. What we did do, though, was instead of telling everybody what happened in the meeting, we gave our own vision based on what we are surveying. And so basically then, if the club's vision was different to what the fans wanted, that would then be apparent. As we've seen now, there's general disappointment about the plans. So we've not broken any rules, but we've kind of let the club publicly know what the fans wanted. And, well, they're trying to do the big sales push for it now, but without the key detail, which is we're going to move people, where they're going to go, what's the price going to be, etc., etc. You know, and also if you know, if the guy next to you, you're going to sit in a seat, if the guy next, it's going to be a collection of individuals. It's not going to be 70% season ticket holders, which is what sort of would probably guarantee the atmosphere, because that's what we had in the South Stand a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Season ticket, not flexi season ticket.
Yeah,
go on.
I was going to say, my memory of when they presented the images of City Hall, it was just within the general, this is what the new concourse areas, the new bars area are going to be. I don't recall anything where it's going to be, this is how you get access to it. I certainly went away thinking, oh, that's quite nice for whoever's going to be sat in that area, but it was never really disclosed to say this is going to be exclusive. The only exclusive area I do recall them talking about was the Sky Bar, which is, you know, going to be where you pay top dollar, and I think is attached to the hotel.
Can I ask you a question, Lee? And it's a bit on the spot here. This is not to put you under pressure or everything, but and I know you might not be able to answer it because you've got a broad kind of church there, sort of thing. So one of the gripes that people see a statement about the club and it's like, oh, City Matters within that statement, and we can say things, we don't have a responsibility, we're not in the room, so you guys kind of have you're the ones who have responsibility. But if like a majority of you on City Matters didn't like what the club were proposing, could you turn around publicly in the minutes and say, we don't like it, we're not having this, and it's up to you to sort of say what you want there? Or is the process always some sort of negotiation where they will give you some things, but you've got to agree some things with them? Like, how does it actually work?
So I would say if there comes a time this season whereby the majority of us aren't happy with a decision that's being made, I would be really clear now, I'm chair, to say, look, I'm not happy with this. I can tell the majority aren't happy with it, and I want it documented that we don't agree with it, and don't put anything out into the public realm to say City Matters have agreed to it. We may have been consulted, but we agreed to go. It's difficult for me to speak previously around how the makeup of City Matters were when Alex and Mark were around the table, because I was very new to the table, and it does take a bit of time to get your feet under the table, get used to how the club works. But certainly now, I would be very clear if I didn't agree with something and there was a clear majority.
Yeah,
that answers
it's difficult, isn't it? Because you've got people who've been there a long time, and you've got people who are like just joined sort of thing, and they're in a room with people in there 20, 30 years, you know, like from the club. So, you know, that's the thing. And then they leave after 2-3 years. Someone else comes along, but the people in the club stay there, don't they? So they know how to play the fans, but the fans don't know how to play the club.
Yes,
well,
and they do use that to their advantage. Well and truly use that.
Just on this earlier on, by the way, just one man, I'm a big up mate. How this North Stand going to benefit the countless fans that have already walked away and those thinking of walking away? Which think covered earlier on, believe. Like I said, I think for some it is too late.
Well, in a perfect world, like if everything we wanted to happen happened, this would benefit fans because it'd be potentially match day tickets to get people back in. There'd be a section with proper identity, like the kit backs that we had previously. There's loads of opportunity there to encourage these fans back. Whether or not it will do that, I would be skeptical. But I think what's going to drive what's probably driven fans away is like apathy towards the match day experience. So it's being overpriced and not really enjoying what's going on because it's becoming too corporate. It's becoming too, you know, like the kind of tribalism and the atmosphere and things have been sucked out of the game to some extent. This is the perfect opportunity to rectify that, but I don't know if it'll be rectified. I hope it is, but let's see.
Yeah.
I would echo some of that. What you just said, Lucas. Put some blue tinted spectacles on them myself. If it goes well, this could be there's more access to tickets. It does become naturally an atmospheric stand. We get rail seating all the way down through. It could attract a whole new younger fan base. Well, not a young fan base, but more younger people into the ground, which we're all after. Cheaper tickets, hopefully. You know, am I skeptical like you are? Yes, but I'm trying to be a bit glass half full than glass half empty on that one.
Is the fan zone?
Yeah,
by the way,
sorry, we did say we suggested to the club there should be like an 80 because at City there was like not a boys' pen. There was the Block D, or Block G, whatever it was. Down beside the main stand, there was like a junior blues. But there was people who wanted to stand. They were like 14 to 18. Didn't want to stand with the parents, but wanted in a safe area. And then you've got the 18 to 25, the away tickets that came in. So we said there should be 18 to 25, maybe some sort of tickets for them or area for them. I think they maybe went to 18 to 21 instead, but even that, they hadn't planned that in the first meeting. It was only later on that they decided to bring those things in. But where they seem to be putting funds is right at the edges, not in any kind of key area where they could influence the atmosphere. Do you see what I mean?
Well, a couple have said, is this fan zone for everyone, or is it just going to be for the hotel guests and the North Stands?
The City Square, I think, is going to be for everybody.
City Square will be for everyone. It'll be like the previous around by the old City Store. And that will be anyone who's got a match day ticket. City Hall, that's £1 an hour, is exclusive for low grade hospitality.
I think they're thinking, the bit where the hotel is, and then they've got the main bit into the North Stand where the bars and the restaurants are meant to be. Because that was what we believe was the fan zone. Is that still staying the fan zone?
Yeah.
Or is that
right?
No. Okay. Yeah, great. I'm just kind of, I know we're going to end in a minute. I know because this is not the end, by the way. People are going to be still going to be on it. I totally get fans walking away, and that for me lies squarely at the goal. The club's door, it'll be like the Co-op. 3,000 fans. Yep. Somewhere along the lines, fan groups have to rally together to ensure similar behaviour by the club in the future doesn't have a negative impact. Right, I think that's everything. There is just one very quick super chat. Thank you, Superbia. People, the best City book ever. City and me, Michael Rennie on Amazon. I've reached out on every platform. Daps, Cheeser, and Big Steve responded. Thank you very much, Superbia. Are you asking us who are best bookies. Probably the Bernstein book. I've enjoyed reading that one lately. So, but thank you. Final thoughts, because obviously this is not the end of it. Like you said, Lee's going to have the City Matters got a meeting on the 18th, hoping sooner. Dan said we've got a WhatsApp group going, haven't we, Dante? So if anyone else got any questions on this and they want to respond later on, let us know and we can pass them on to the relevant people.
I think it's important to say that any City fan who's affected shouldn't feel on their own. You know what I mean? And I think
no.
There was people being moved. It hasn't always happened before, but this is a bit. It's also tidy for the rest of the ground. It's like the North Stand. What's happening? But for those people themselves, they feel cheesed off with it, and we don't know what could come of it. But people like yourself, Martin, giving everybody here a platform, and we did invite a couple of those people from the North Stand. They didn't want to come on. They were like, I'll get persecuted, I'll get me targeted by the club. And we said, no, you won't. We don't get targeted. But they're not media savvy yet. Maybe they will come through the next week or two. And if they get a meeting with the club, that obviously they'll have to go and attend those meetings. But it's thank you, Martin, for giving people a voice and a chance to. Well, we also wanted people to understand that groups like City Matters at A94 were in some meetings with the club, and what we could and couldn't do, and that's important for fans to know, because we're not here to agree with absolutely everything the club wants to.
No, and listen, Danny, I get called the happy clapper of the YouTube world, and I won't say anything wrong, and I will, because I'm still a fan. I'm a Manchester City fan, and I care about the fans. That's what I go for. And you're always welcome back. If there's an update and when we can get it, we will try and get people back on again, and we'll go through the updates. Someone's asked, is there an email for anyone to come to on this?
Well, not really an email. I mean, because it was just. I mean, is that person in the North Stand themselves?
Yeah,
depends who that person is.
Yeah,
you can feel free to drop me an email.
I mean, for Lee, there is at City Matters.
Can you pass that on, Lee, or do you want me to put it in the comments?
It's in the comments. It's Lee. It's very simple. It's Lee Broadstock at citymatters.co.uk.
Right, there you go.
But it's on the City website. I can put it into chat as well. But what I will guarantee to anyone who's listening to this, anyone who puts comments in, I will put your voices into the room of the decision makers. But what they do with that that comment and that feedback, I can't guarantee what they do. But like I said,
be respectful. Don't please be respectful in your emails.
One other thing is Lee covers the City Masters Twitter, and he's doing a very good job. He's obviously new to it. He was a bit, what do I do, and this sort of thing. And sometimes he'll put something out there, and you can't please everybody. And he'll say something like, I'm listening to you, but we'll get back to you. Sometimes if you haven't got all the information from the club, you can't actually say anything more than what you can say, sort of thing. So that's not like saying we're fobbing you off or we haven't got thinking. It's just saying we're trying to be visible. We're trying to actually give you not over promise in terms of expectation, but I think he's just trying to say, like, I'm a human being and he's got a day job and he works, various hours and over weekends and stuff like that. So you can't, obviously, Lee, you can't monitor the Twitter feed 24/7, can you? You can do updates.
They're all volunteers. Nobody gets paid. So he's doing it off his own time voluntarily.
Yeah, and I think there's some people who have responded to Twitter do think I'm actually getting paid by the club to be there 24/7, which I can guarantee you not. It takes a lot of time, and I do try to get any questions that come through. I put them to the club, and then I am just waiting. I can only put it on the table.
Yeah. No, but thank you. I want to say a massive thank you to Lucas, Jed, Lee, Dante, and everyone earlier on as well. Mark, Todd, Solid Citizens, Jed, King of the Kipaks, or was former King of the Kipaks. Great fanzine. I love reading that. Thank you, Jed. All your hard work for that. Lucas, Lee from City Matters, and Dante, from 1894. We will keep fighting the corner. We will keep trying to open communication lines. I said anything you want to add, stick it in the comments afterwards. And we'll get it started. But thank you all very much. Please share this around. This is important. Share it around as we need to get this out there. And that's what it's about.
One last thing. Tomorrow night, Dortmund.
Yes.
Let's have a great atmosphere. I think it's going to be good tomorrow. Come on. And Sunday. Absolutely smash them.
He's in charge of the light show, isn't he?
No, I'm not in charge. If it was up to me, there'd be no light show. And there'd be no one on the panel saying Erling Haaland, you know, fuck off, we can do our own atmosphere, you know. That's what I'm saying. It's dictating. You've got to sit there, you can't compete, so people give up trying to create an atmosphere because they're being told what to do and sit there, watch this show. Now, we know the people who get involved with it and we get on really well with him, and sometimes decisions are above his thing as well. But, you know, you've got to make an atmosphere happen naturally, organically. You can't just fucking sit there and have the guy, I'm sure he's a nice bloke, he called himself the voice of the Etihad. The voice of the Etihad is the supporters. He's not the voice of the Etihad. He's the voice of the fucking corporate club, and that's ego-driven nonsense. The voice of the Etihad is the fans. Don't call yourself the voice of the fucking Etihad, for fuck's sake. Anyway.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and we'll see you tomorrow. Big up, all. You are legends. Take care. See you.
Okay, cheers.
Come on, City.